On today's episode, we discuss Marcello Garcia's return to competitive grappling,
being vulnerable and helping yourself grow,
how your children view you through their lens.
That's my purse. I don't know you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the pod. My name is Kenny. I am here with Matt. It is episode 70 of the BJJ Balance podcast. Brother, how was your week? How was the knee? What was going on with you in your recovery?
My knee feels great, and I'm not even bullshitting. I feel like, first of all, what's up, guys? Secondly, I feel like I could roll right now. I'm feeling good. My leg, the thigh. Remember I said the quad was real sore?
Yeah.
That's kind of gone away.
Nice.
Very weak. My leg does like some, actually right now it does like some like fucking seizure thing.
But does the Adam Bradley?
Yeah, I don't know. Adam Bradley. But like besides being very, very weak, and like I can still feel like where I touched where the incision, not the incisions, but where the scopes were.
Mm-hmm.
It's very sore. But man, I feel pretty good.
Nice.
I feel pretty good. Like I kind of want to go to class tomorrow.
You said that last week. I think it was Friday. Nate and I are just like,
maybe
no.
2 more weeks, dude.
No.
Maybe 2 more weeks, and I could like start teaching again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna be rolling till the end of spring, but maybe start teaching again. I get my post-op tomorrow. The guy tells me actually what he did. Whatever he did. Dr. Baum, Marietta, Corona. This guy
killed it.
I've had knee surgeries on my right knee. Granted, those surgeries were a lot worse than what I got done here.
Really?
But maybe I'm living in the moment. But this leg feels great. I feel like I want to do like an Ironman or something. Like I want to run.
Mm-hmm. Well, get after it, brother.
You know what I mean?
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad the knee's on the up and up and recovering. I know that for a while there, the knee popping in and out thing was like it happened here and there, and then it was like all the time. So clearly it was getting worse by the day. So I'm glad that that's all gone and done, and the knee's not popping out anymore, and the pain.
Yeah, I was checked because I had 4 tears, so I was like, I felt like I had like 4 different knives to my neck. So anywhere I moved, it would pop out. Like I was like, oh, like I couldn't like.
Right.
Yeah, and it probably didn't help it by me saying, hey, look at this. Look at this. I kept doing that little fucking thing.
Right.
That did not help it at all. But yeah, we're good, dude. We're good over here.
Well, we got some topics today before we dive into some questions from some listeners. And I think the first one I'm going to do is this jiu-jitsu time machine. Where are we going? I'm a little thrown off by this. This is a topic that Matt threw in our little our group topic section thing. So, Matt, what do you mean by jiu-jitsu time machine?
If you own possession of a time machine related to jiu-jitsu, Kenny, and you could go somewhere to talk to somebody, you can go train with somebody who's not training anymore, you can go back to your past, you can go to your future to see where you're at in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
What are you doing?
Oh, fuck, man.
Maybe a role you did that you wish you didn't do, and now because you're injured.
Does it have to relate to me specific? Like, could I go back in time to any time to a jiu-jitsu, or does it have to be in my jiu-jitsu lifespan?
Anytime.
Man, you know what? There's I know we talked about this like in one of the first pods. I was reading that Robert Drysdale book, Opening the Closed Guard. And he says a lot of controversial things about like the early years of jiu-jitsu and kind of like the formative stories behind jiu-jitsu and how a lot of it is just kind of lore. And it would be interesting to go back just from a history standpoint and kind of see what's the validity behind some of those stories. Do these guys really have these like 200 like random like gym wars under their belt, or is some of this stuff embellished? Like, what's the true kind of like what really happened? You know what I mean? And kind of like, I think we already know, like the world knows from basically UFC 1 forward jiu-jitsu story, but like, what's the real definitive like, non-documented story pre-UFC?
Right.
Because there's a lot of speculation that jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, existed pre-Helio Gracie, him even learning it. There's people, Japanese immigrants in Brazil before Maeda that were teaching Japanese jiu-jitsu. So,
right. Probably like a Greco-Roman days.
Yeah.
Grappling has been around forever. I think it's the original fighting style of humans.
Yeah.
People can say it's boxing, people can say it's kicking or kickboxing, whatever, but I really do think it's a sort of grappling, whether it's wrestling, sambo, jiu-jitsu, whatever you want to call it. For sure,
dudes were grabbing each other, and there might have been some like shitty strikes thrown in there, but I would say a form of grappling was probably long established, well before any sort of like technical breakdown of striking. You know what I mean?
Right. So like if you see two Rams fight, you know what they're going to do. They're going to crack heads. That's how they get down.
Right.
If a bear fights, they get up on 2 feet and they fight like that. Every animal, every mammal fights its certain way. I think generally, as a human species, I think we fight as grappling. I think that's our base. That's our base fighting style.
You know how one of the biggest selling points of jiu-jitsu, especially back in the day, was that they would say like 70% of fights that end up on the ground. And I think that maybe as martial arts have become more popular over the years, and the standing up arts have become more popular over the years, maybe that's shifted maybe a couple of points, just because now you actually have trained people. But if you just take two dudes that can't fight at all, and you get them pissed at each other, and they get to a point where they're going to come, to fists, that's probably going to the ground. I would say more than 70% of the time.
I would say 100% of the time, because someone's going down.
Right. And then they're going to grab a leg to hold on for dear life. And then, yeah.
You're going down. The winner going to be on top, but like someone's going down. So if you're going down, you still have a little bit of wits to you. Wouldn't you want to know how to grab some?
Right. So, what about you? Jiu-Jitsu Time Machine. Where are you going?
I would kind of want to go. I kind of would like to go like maybe to the future to see if, just because I have like the worries of my injuries, to see if I get to where I want to get. Like, see if I acquire a core belt. Or I would like to go into the past and roll with Rickson. Just because I've heard how fantastic he is. I would love to get murked by Rickson Gracie in his prime.
Right.
Because I did have the chance to roll with Buchecha. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I will get a chance to roll Hodger most likely. This to say I've had like 3 of the Mount Rushmore guys.
Right, for sure.
And so I could give an assessment like, okay, I had Rickson in his prime. I definitely had Buchecha in his prime. They were all mercs, okay? But like, I would like to be able to say,
Yeah, no, I get it. So, okay, as a blue belt, I don't, I'm not beating up any black belt. That being said, we had a black belt come down to visit Dedicated like a week ago, earlier this week, on a Tuesday night for no-gi class. And I guess he runs a school up in like the Big Bear area. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it was no-gi. I didn't know what belt he was. So I rolled with him, again, unknowing. And
you swept him? Did you hit him with the sweep?
I did. I
forgot to, I'm telling you right now, can he get you in this little lockdown sweep? And he basically John Wayne sweeps you. But he'll sneaky as a sneaky fucking bald piece of shit with that thing, dude.
But he ended up subbing me, I think, like 4 minutes into the 5-minute round or whatever. And I again, I had no idea he was black. I was just going kind of full force, but he inverted a lot. He had that kind of I don't know. I've got a belly. I don't invert, bro. I can't do it. I just fucking crush my lungs. So
I do. I don't know.
I know. I don't know how you do it either. I'm fucking. It's why it's even more impressive. I'm like, I can't do that shit. But what I'm getting at is that to face a black belt, like I've never rolled with Poncho. Poncho's never asked me. I'm not going to ask Poncho. But I'm
setting that up.
You dick. But
I'm setting that up. Like I'm setting that up. That's on the list, dude. That's happening this year. We're checking that fucking box this year. I promise.
But
I'm cutting this little clip right here, and I'm tagging him, and he's gonna know. I was like, we're making that happen real fucking fast.
But as a blue belt, I'm honored to roll with any black belt for whoever it may be. I've had the fortune to roll with a couple of 10 Planet black belts, a couple of guys over at Checkmate Murrieta, obviously Jason, decently frequently and whatnot, and it's always in order to see just, you know, how they're going to respond to my game. Do they instantly smash it? Am I able to get something in there? You know what I mean? Like, and even though I know I'm going to lose, I walk away from it, you know, that little experience, like a little, just like I roll with another black belt today. You know what I mean? Like,
have you been able to hit your sweep on people's left leg?
Never really tried it, to be honest with you. I've locked down people's left leg.
You love the lock down their right leg.
Yeah. I'll try that this week.
Yeah. Try to hit your sweep on left legs.
Yeah. I'll try that this week.
Be undeniable with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the next evolution of your lockdown sweep.
Get it from the opposite side. Other topics we got here. Let's see. 9. Women must be dangerous.
In today's world, women must be dangerous. I think too many women, even some I know, they just think that they're gonna be when the shit goes down, they're going to get some adrenaline rush and be able to lift a car or be able to like just do whatever they want to do, which is not the case.
Right.
You got to be able to protect yourself in this world. There's too many women and too many bunk ass self-defense clips on the internet that have give women false security. Like, I'll just elbow them in the nose. I'll grab them in the balls.
Right.
I'll do all this. That shit won't work. You need to be able to lock up, close a guard, wait for help, escape, avoid danger, run away.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I know we've kind of touched on this topic in the past, but something that I see a lot with that is there is that kind of like false sense of not security, but false sense of like empowerment. And it's like, yo, if you try that shit in real life, you're probably just going to get fucked up or dead, you know? Like that isn't life-saving. That's putting you in danger. And the fact that you think that it's going to work is even worse. You know what I mean? Like the number one thing that you should do if you're unprepared to fight or this person's dramatically bigger than you or anything is fucking run. Like that should be obviously step number one. Now, if you can't do that, you need something more. But
even if you're like in a Taibo class or a kickboxing class or you're just hitting mitts all the time and like you're doing this as stand-up art, you should not ever engage with a man.
Right.
Period.
Right.
He's going to wear your punches. If you're 112 pounds, he's going to wear those punches and beat. Then what?
Right.
You need to be running away, using your whatever self-defense you got, whether it's mace, taser, whatever, firearm, getting away. If they grab you, using your jiu-jitsu to be defensive with it, to stay alive until help comes. There's too many, and all these martial arts are good. Muay Thai is fantastic. Kickboxing is fantastic. Everything is great, but you just got to be able to know that. How are you using Muay Thai for defense? You're going to teep kick and get pushed and he runs you and puts you on your ass. And now you're on bottom.
Right.
What are you going to do when you get there? I just feel like that's why jiu-jitsu is so good, because you can use it so defensively. You can make it a boring fight in real life and stay alive.
You know, I think when people say the term self-defense, they're in their head, they think they take a self-defense class. That means they know how to fight. Well, it's like, no, the whole point of you being there is defense, to learn how to defend, not how to take the offensive and be aggressive and push it. You're not learning to be a fighter. You're learning to stay alive. So don't get it twisted and think that you take a couple of self-defense classes or some Krav Maga courses here and there, and then all of a sudden you're just a badass. Like, simmer down.
So yeah, that's it. I just feel women need to, if you can't use your martial art for defense,
right?
Which I think Muay Thai, you could block defensive, learn how to block strikes, and you know what I mean? That's great. But if you can't use it to stay alive in a real situation, like a mugging, then maybe you should try to find something, a martial art that can help you. Are you going to be able to, when you get taken down in a parking lot between two cars, what are you going to do? That, to me, I feel like you need to That's why I think jiu-jitsu is the best martial arts for women, period. I don't know if there's an argument against that. How do you argue against that? I just don't think there is.
This weekend was belt promotions at Dedicated, and my wife had mentioned something along the lines of, she made a comment, sometimes I wish I did jiu-jitsu just because there's such cool looking jiu-jitsu gear that I wish I could wear. And I said, well, we would love to have you on the mat. And she said, she's over the sweating idea. She said, first time she ever heard Jason and Poncho having a conversation when Jason was like a white belt and they were drinking at Killarney's. This is, over a decade ago.
Oh, geez, a long time.
Yeah. And she was, no, I'm sorry. I take that back. It was Jason and Stacy. Do you remember Stacy?
Yeah, Big Stacy.
Yeah. So it was when Stacy was still, or I think he just got his blue belt. And so she went to the tattoo shop to go get tattooed. And Stacy and Jason are both working and they're talking about rolling. And they're saying all the gross, the sweat drop in his mouth and all that stuff. And she's just like, that just ruined it for me. And I'm like, yeah, but you're going to be rolling with people your size. It's not like you're going to have some 260-pound dude over you sweating in your mouth. Like, it could happen. It's unlikely, but you're probably going to be training with other girls, especially as Dedicated grows and the women's, starts to grow. But she did say, it's something I would think about in the future. Right now, our daughter just goes to bed too soon, and I don't want her to be at jiu-jitsu class for 3 hours a night. And also,
what she needs to come to one of my 6 a.m. classes. I know she's probably going to generally be with Jason. Jason's her best friend.
Yeah.
Fine. But you can come to one of my 6 a.m. classes till the schedule works out. You can roll with, we have a bunch of girls in our class now. You can come roll with us, and I give you an injury-free guarantee your first class, because I already know she wakes up early and works out.
Right.
So come try 6 a.m., Wendy. We'll get you straightened up over here.
That would be, I don't push it because I know that can bite you back sometimes. You know what I mean? If you try to like push your lady to get into something, and you just hope that it happens organically, especially with, me doing it and our daughter doing it. It's like, she's around it all the time, and her best friend.
I got one of my wild analogies. You ready?
Go for it.
It's kind of like having a threesome with your girl for the first time. Like, you don't want to pay too much attention to the other girl because you might ruin the future for threesomes. You know what I mean? So basically the other girl's just eye candy, and you got to pay all that attention to your girl, and don't you dare finish over there either. So you just kind of want to, play, walk the line, because you want to have another one. So like, you're like, hey, she says she's interested in it. Right. I'm going to leave it there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let it be her idea.
I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I guess a better analogy is like talking to a pitcher who has a no-hitter going on. You don't want to ruin it. We're on the right path here. Let this thing evolve naturally.
Right.
Sadie's going to be the one to get her to go.
Probably. I think
she's going to be like, Mom, let's do this together. And what are you going to say? When your kid wants to make memories with you, what are you going to do? I'm hoping my child is going to be the one who gets my wife to put the gi on. Doubt it. But yeah, we can hope.
Then you just they're going to rub it in your face. See, Dad, I got her to do it. And you're going to be like, hey, look, I broke the ice for 15 years.
15 years, dude. I can't even like mess around in the kitchen with her, like try to underhook or do something stupid when I was a blue belt. When you're a blue belt, your girl is just basically a test dummy for moves, I would try that shit with Corinne, and she just gets so pissed. Like, do you touch me with that? Don't even touch me if you're going to bring that crap over here with your tap out shirt on. Like, hey. I was like, my bad.
Man, there's a company that just fucking went away. One guy dies and the whole company just dissolves.
Man.
What about Bad Boy? What happened to Bad Boy?
I was sponsored by Bad Boy.
Were you really?
For like 3 months, dude, they hit me up. They sent me a contract over, and they're like, hey, and I wasn't really nothing. Yeah, they're like, we'd like to sponsor you. They sent me like a kit, and they sent me like some shorts, and they sent me like, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, cool. And they sent me this, basically it's just a geared kit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I was like, they just quit posting. And I was like, well, hey guys.
They did?
Yeah, like their social media. I kept like trying to tag them and stuff, and they're like wouldn't reshare it. And like the guy like they're still to this day they have those same posts. They just like quit as Bad Boy USA. They just quit posting, so they must have went under. I'm like, okay,
what a trip. You know, I think I've briefly mentioned this in the past, but when I first got into jiu-jitsu, there was one particular brand that I was super into, called Hypnotic. And they made a lot of like kind of neat rash guards that were like hip hop influenced, like off of like 90s hip hop album covers. So there was like a Biggie rash guard and like a Tribe Called Quest rash guard and a De La Soul rash guard. And they had some pretty nice gis and whatnot. I had a couple of their gis. Well, they ended up signing Gordon Ryan before he had his Future Kimonos deal. And within like 6 months or a year after signing Gordon, less than a year for sure, the company just didn't exist anymore. And I almost wonder if like it cost them so much money to sponsor Gordon and the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze and they just lost their ass.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, man, doing the merch thing. Trust me, I'm living that right now. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of money you put up front. You know what I mean? Starting a business is like not easy. All these fees I gotta pay, you know what I mean? For like before I could even put anything out to buy. Like I was like the LLC thing was like it's cost me a lot of money. So
well, and think
it's not easy.
You're not even doing like because you're just going through like a distributor to have somebody make your shirts. Imagine if you had to get a wholesale license to buy the shirts wholesale to then have them. You know what I mean? You could do that because it does save you a little bit of money on the front end because you're getting your actual garments at a lesser price.
Right.
But you've got to get a wholesale license, get the wholesale account with the vendor, which isn't free usually.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of.
And then you got to pay like the $800 a year to keep your LLC going.
Right.
A lot of stuff. Like I'm like, geez, man, this is like, it's like. So shout out to everybody out here doing it. You know, I'm just trying to get a Corvette over here. Damn it. But I'm working on a new shirt design. We'll see how it goes.
What makes you worth following? No, we didn't.
What makes me worth following is I like to change it up. I like to reinvent myself. A lot of people just kind of mimic, and I feel like that's dumb. I think there's a lot, especially in the meme space to begin with. There's a lot of guys who do jiu-jitsu memes, but they don't have a face behind their name, which I think we've talked just before. So they're faceless accounts. And then there's a lot of faceless accounts that steal other people's stuff.
Right.
That and then try to make their name off other people's content. And to me, I'm like, that's never gonna stick eventually because they're just gonna want the people talking.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, especially if you're not giving credit to the people. I mean, that's happened to us a couple times. I just feel like you need to. It's not easy just to like think of content. People are like, to me, they're like, man, you just put out stuff every day. I'm like, dude, I'm like literally Sunday night is like 3 hours of me like think about what I'm gonna do for the week. Yeah. It's like a whole second job.
Well, you're very almost kind of like in that wavelength. You kind of live in that mindset of like creating content. You know what I mean? Like, well, you just be hanging out with Matt, and all of a sudden he'll be like, meme, and you're like, what? And it's just something happened that triggered something in his brain that's like, I got to make a meme out of that. But
this is true.
Yeah,
I like live it. That is true. But I think that's part of being worth following.
Right.
You know, someone's going to be like, there's always going to be something. You're going to have 4 posts for me a day, at least, maybe 7. So I was on a podcast. I was on the Combat Creative podcast, and the guy said he'd looked up my analytics. And he said that you do 7 to 12 posts a day. I was like, oh shit, really? I didn't even know it was that. I just put stuff out there. But like, you can't just be a jiu-jitsu guy and just be like, post the story of you training or your feet on the mat. You know what I mean? You're not going to get growth that way.
Yeah, well, not to mention, you can't do those kinds of posts until you're already established and people follow you. You know what I mean? Like, you're just a guy that posting his feet on the mat unless you're the guy.
What is a blue belt? Okay, Kenny, how are you how would you get yourself as a blue belt jiu-jitsu influencer?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get to 10,000? How does Freak Party BJJ get to 10,000 followers?
Without the pod?
No, so you have the pod.
Okay.
You can build, so you're using that.
Yeah, I would say.
What else besides the pod can you do in training to help grow? More talking head stuff.
Yeah,
people kind of know who you are.
I would say more talking head. You can't. I think as a blue belt, you posting any sort of a technique, is just going to be generally frowned upon. So don't do that. You could go the meme route because you can be blue belt and still be funny, and it not have to be a technical respect thing. You know, you could do. I mean, it depends. If I'm not me and I don't have a family and I don't have a career and I've got a little bit of money and I'm able to travel around, you could do that. Like, I'm still very much a student. Let me travel around, hit all these different gyms. I've got a home-based gym, but I you know what I mean? If I'm traveling around and hitting all these gyms and just kind of like showing exposure, almost kind of going the route that not necessarily Matt made, but that Kenny Kim is doing. He's talking about that other idea he had where he was just going to go visit these other gyms and kind of like bring exposure to them, but different spots in the world. Something like that, that there's an idea, but that's going to cost money. So you got to be able to have low overhead, know how to operate a camera, know how to edit, all those things.
I think a video docking, documenting like that could be it. Like the struggles of a blue belt, or someone following your journey,
right?
All like what diet, you gotta be like,
especially if you're.
There's so many people doing the same stuff in jiu-jitsu. Is what I'm trying to say. There's so many people posting the same stuff, and you're stuck at 1,500 followers because you're just doing the same stuff. So all the homies followed you already, and your grandma and your grandpa and all this stuff, but all your content is like you at the gym, you at the training, what you ate. What else? People need to know you. They need to know who you are. You need to show vulnerability. You need to be vulnerable. You need to be entertaining, and you need to be training.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like to show vulnerability. A lot of people don't like to show themselves loose. They don't like to show that they're human.
Right.
I think that is a huge part of growing in your social media. Go on there, say, this is what I think I need to get better at. Be like, dude, me too. This guy's real.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
Vulnerability helps you grow. Especially I thought that I'm very vulnerable on here.
Especially in those early stages, you know what I mean? Unless you're one of those, generational talents or somebody that's just naturally athletically gifted, white through blue until maybe the end of blue, you're going to just be getting smashed most of the time. So when you are vulnerable like that, that's where you're going to get the basis of your audience. And then we've talked about this before too. Something that Keelan, Brandon B-Max, kind of, I wouldn't say understudy, but his partner in PGF.
Is Kenny?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that he said when we had a conversation with him is that their initial goal was to be the premier content provider for white belts and blue belts, because that's where everybody's at in the sport. That's where the majority of the jiu-jitsu audience lays, is white belt and blue belt. And as you go up further in belts, it starts to thin out. So if you're trying to make content for people, if you've got a target audience, it's going to be white belts and blue belts.
And if you are a blue belt, wouldn't someone being able to relate to you be something worth following?
Right. Exactly. It's like a shared
journey. Why are all my memes white belt and blue belt memes?
Right.
There's a reason. It's because I know I'm going to get the most likes, because that's where most people are.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'll make a brown belt meme here and there, but like, I don't make hardly any black belt memes.
Right. Yeah. Because what is that?
It's purple and below.
Right. Yeah. No, it's good. That's the target audience. If that's where you're at, especially, that's how people are going to connect with you and relate to you the most. It's really going to be hard if Matt didn't make white belt, blue belt memes, it's going to be difficult for a white belt to relate to Matt when Matt's talking about technique or competition. It just goes right over your head. You know what I mean? If Matt was doing like a technique breakdown, he's like, oh, here's my favorite, lasso to this roll to ankle pick, and a white belt's gonna be like, what the fuck? It's just there's going to be a disconnect there, because there's trying to relate with that 10 plus year skill gap is going to be almost impossible. So
yeah, 100%. I just feel that people need to, the vulnerability, if you want to grow, I think vulnerability is the way to go.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a lower level belt. To me, I would 100% agree, like, with everything you just said.
And then we got, who are we through the lenses of our kids? This is an important one, I think.
Yeah, because I got to train with my kid a couple weeks ago for the first time. And I thought that it was going to be something like, I get to show her this, I get to show her that. But really, she showed me. It was something I needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just to see all. So then after that, I had everybody bring their kids in for a class. It was like one of my last classes before surgery. I was like, everybody bring your kids in. It was Christmas break. Bring your kids in. And just the looks. And I'm just going to single out dads here for right now. The looks of these kids' faces watching their dads and doing it, training with their dads, not their dads sitting on the bench, watching them, instructing them.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually rolling with their dads, and they were like watching their dads smile because they were doing something fun. They weren't like helping your dad in the garage, handing him a tool. That's never fun. But like, you're actually doing the same thing, learning together. You could just see these kids, how much they look up to their dads, the lenses they have for their dads. They're like, man, that's my dad. That's my hero right there. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be just like them. And I think sometimes we forget how much they watch us, or maybe your kid's so much with mom during the day that they don't get to experience who their dad really is. I know I never did. My dad was out wilding, but there's something when I see like fathers and sons bonding. There's something to that to me that like when you die, everything goes away. 100 and whatever 1,000 followers goes away. Everybody goes away. People are gonna be sad for me for a couple weeks, but eventually I'm gonna be in the ground, and they gotta go back to work. My wife's gotta go back to work. It all done. The people that are gonna mourn me are the ones that I'm in the house with every day.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what you got to figure out, like, it's cool to grow your social media. It's cool to be this guy, but you got to take a step back and realize that like the only ones that really matter are your kids and how they view you as a dad or as a leader in the family, whether it's an uncle or whatever. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Sometimes I reflect on that because I could be a little, and I'm always going for the comedy. That's kind of my shtick. You know what I mean? Top 50 funniest guys you ever knew. But sometimes I'm like, I want to do more serious stuff, but I'm afraid to do more serious stuff. But I mean, I feel like I'm trying to be vulnerable and be someone that like, because I want my kids to see this someday and be like, get something out of it. That's why I started in the first place.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We've talked about that in the past too. I've definitely not having much of a father figure around in my formative years. Now when I see fathers being good dads to their sons, it gets me choked up. You know what I mean? When it's people I know, if I see that shit on TV, that doesn't, it's not real. It doesn't register as real to me. But
this is the 5th anniversary of Kobe passing. You talked about that in a group chat that like when you see Kobe.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When you see him, the way that he connected to his daughters, the way that his daughter was playing basketball and he was, that's like his two loves in one, his children and the thing that he loves so much. He did it for his career and it ended up being one of the best ever to do it. He's got his love and his passion mixing together. Like it's a beautiful thing, and you're
somebody, you weren't a basketball. You're not a huge basketball nut. No.
But I'm a dad.
But like,
and I've been a son.
You're a dad.
Yeah. So it's like, and that's the thing too, is because I know what I had and it wasn't great. And I know what can be great. That it like hits extra hard because it's just like, a little part of me, my inner kid is looking at me like, oh, we could have had that.
Yeah, it's envious.
Right. But then a lot of part of me is like, no, you can do that.
Yeah, you don't need it. Yeah, you are that now.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get myself I catch myself being selfish. Whether I'm on my phone too much or I'm doing things to try to grow my brand. Because I know in the deep run, because that's going to help us grow our empire. You know what I mean? And something like, we have all this because of what dad did, but you can't you got to still do the little things on the inside, because if you're not present, what's it even worth? I give my kids everything.
Right.
And they don't come around on the holidays. They don't want to be here for Christmas because they don't have a relationship with me. And what was the purpose of doing it? Jordan was an alpha, the GOAT, the greatest. I'm a Jordan head. That's my guy. Kobe was just like them. And everybody thought that until Kobe retired and he started showing vulnerability of being a father. And what did that do? Vulnerability opened up a whole new revenue of followers.
Right.
And that's what I was trying to say earlier. Show vulnerability with yourself. And then you're going to open up it's another pathway for creating.
It's not just another connection, it's a deeper connection.
It is.
I went to a shooting course today. Something we always talk about, that's something I feel like I need to be better at. Something I enjoy, but it's something I need to be better at. And it's hard to get to the range, So I went and I did a 5-hour class today. And I was telling my kid about it last night, hey, I got to go to bed early. I got to wake up early. I got to go do this thing, da-da-da-da. And then she's just like, well, maybe one of these weekends when it's like a Sadie and Daddy weekend, we can go shooting. Now, my kid's 6. I'm not taking her to the range yet. She's a little too young for that. But she does have a little BB gun. I'm like, well, you're a little too young for that. But maybe next weekend we'll sit up in the backyard. We'll set some cans up. And I'll teach you how to shoot the BB gun the right way. And I'll start introducing firearm safety to her and whatnot. And my goal is after 7, between the ages of 7 and 8, building a 22 rifle, showing her how to shoot that. And then I can take the kid to the range with me, So now we've got, and it's something it was her idea. She wants to do it. So it's not me forcing my kid to do something that I don't think they want to do. So if I can bond with my kid through jiu-jitsu and shooting, one, that makes me, as a father who wants to raise a strong child, it makes me confident that my kid, if put in a bad situation, has a better shot at handling themselves. 2, those are things that I absolutely love to do. And if I can share my passion with my children without forcing them to do it, I think that's the best connection. You know what I mean? If it's their idea, kind of how we talked about, if, you hope that your wife does jiu-jitsu, but it's got to be her idea if it's ever going to take hold, So yeah, I don't want to just force my kid to learn how to shoot a gun and then they don't care. So they brain dump it and it isn't become a passion of their own. My goal is,
to me, I look up to you a lot when it comes to parenting, because you've already done it and you've shown vulnerability of this is where I messed up.
Right.
This is what and then I see how you're changing that. And maybe you're more mature, you're older.
Yeah.
And so now you're handling it differently. And to me, to see that switch, to see the growth and to show vulnerability on this podcast by doing that has really been it's to see it as kind of okay, because I have little ones. I haven't, God forbid, I have not messed up yet.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be some stuff when they're older, you did this. I can't believe you were doing that. But watching you learn from your mistakes, it's jiu-jitsu. You start off as a white belt and you're dude, I can't believe I used to pass half guard without an underhook. I just kept getting now you're I gotta have an underhook before I pass half. I don't want my back taken. You know what I mean? So,
one of the questions that we're going to get into listener questions here in a little bit, but I'm going to bring one of them up. Somebody asked, what's a lesson that you've learned in jiu-jitsu that you take with you into other parts of life? And I was really thinking about this today, specifically while in this course. And I'm I think jiu-jitsu has allowed me to become a better learner. And that's in a couple of ways. One, I feel like because I'm so hungry to learn jiu-jitsu and I know it's such a complex thing that I'm like, I've become a better listener and I'm more attentive when somebody's instructing me, because I know that you can't lose your attention for even half a second, because you're going to miss that little minute detail that's going to be the difference maker between making that move work and totally just botching it. The other thing is learning from my mistakes. You know what I mean? Like when I'm in these roles in jiu-jitsu and I do attempt something and I fail it, or I get caught with something because I'm not paying attention and I overextend, or I put my weight in a place it shouldn't be and I get swept. I now recognize those mistakes and I'm like, oh, don't want to do that again, you know? But that's something that like jiu-jitsu's made me better at. So in life, you know, I'm a better learner just all around, because one, I know when it's time to learn, it's time to pay attention and it's time to block everything out and focus. And I know that when it's time to be practically working on, you know, skill sets, or just, you know, being a dad, like I've fucked up in the past, you know, and I look at my example now of my oldest child being 22. And I'm like, man, like when she was 6, what was I doing with her? What was I not doing? How can I be better at that with my current 6-year-old? So, I don't know. I don't know where I would be without jiu-jitsu, but I know that I'm a lot better because of it. And I know that it's given me that gift of like just being eager to learn, to change, and to be better. And that applies in everything, especially follow.
Yeah, man. Hats off to you for like evolving. I think that's also mine for when it comes to jiu-jitsu. On that question, we'll just put his name right here. It's like I think the same thing is learning skill sets. I think when a lot of people have this false sense of security on how life is, like, I got to figure it out. You're full, especially men, full testosterone. Oh, right. I do it. I can win this guy in a fight. Oh, I can do. Doesn't matter. He ain't better than me. When you get out there, jiu-jitsu teaches like there are levels to everything.
Yeah.
And there's black belts in every different aspect of life. Black belts with, you know, carpentry or whatever. You know what I mean? So you can get into these fields and get fucked up. You can get fucked up in all these different fields if you just go in there cocky. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Go to the range, there's a range master there. It's like, that's your black belt, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's the one, you know. My father-in-law was a range master at Prado for years, right? So I go shooting with him. I'm 2-stripe white belt. I don't know what I'm doing. He's out here just making things happen. So I think that it's very like jiu-jitsu has taught me to be aware of black belts and other parts of life, and to tread with respect. And when I go into different genres or different areas and different skills, because going in there like you know everything, like a 20-year-old, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're gonna get fucked up.
It's like the jiu-jitsu is one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had in my life. So I think because there's maybe like, it could be ego death. It could be the fact that like it's done a couple of things. Maybe you go in jiu-jitsu and you're overly confident and it checks you real quick and you're like, oh, I'm not as good as I thought it was, like kind of how you were mentioning. Or you go into jiu-jitsu and you're so timid and you think that I can't do this. I suck. I'm not good at anything. And then you start to pick up little bits of technique and something starts to work. And all of a sudden it's starting to build that confidence that you maybe never had. So, you know, it's just a good tool in life in general, just to kind of like balance you out and just make you a better overall person, whether you're a weak person that wants to be strong or you're somebody who's maybe too headstrong, but needs a reality check. You know what I mean? And it just kind of resets things. So.
Yeah, agreed.
We got some questions. Let me dive over here real quick. Mark Legaction. Shout out Mark. He was at SHOT Show this week. If you are into guns, you can be jealous like I am. SHOT Show is like a trade show. It's like the gun trade show that happens every year in Vegas. And it's like a week long. So it's like all the new gun products come out, all the new knives, all the new guns themselves, new optics, new lights, new this, new that. all the new cool gun stuff comes out then. But he says, how about that Marcello return? Now, I know this for a fact. Mark is a big Marcello Garcia fan. And
a good guy to be a fan of.
Yeah.
Arguably, pound for pound, the greatest. So some people say. He's done it in the gi. He's done it no gi. He's the giant. He's killed giants. You know, he's technically, you're not going to find a guy. Maybe
Musumeci. Maybe.
Nah, Marcello Garcia is better. Technically, maybe the Mendez. You know. Yeah, but I mean, technically, Marcello Garcia is like top tier. You're not gonna. Everything he does for a purpose.
Right.
He came back. He hit. I think everybody saved that reverse north-south choke.
Right.
I've been doing jiu-jitsu my whole life. I've never even thought about that.
You know what?
That has been.
As far as Marcello, just to touch back real quick, you know how you can look at a Gordon Ryan, and there's people that love Gordon, there's people that hate Gordon. I've never heard a single soul in jiu-jitsu speak a disparaging word about Marcello Garcia.
No, he's generally a nice guy. He was here in Temecula one time. I was a white belt and I didn't know who he was. But when I was training at Carlson Gracie's, he was there.
Really?
And he was rolling with a bunch of guys. Like, I think Orlando has a video of him rolling with Marcello Garcia. I don't know who he was. Still some Mexican dude. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know who it was. Didn't know I was one of the greatest guys ever lived. Wish I would have known. Not like he's going to pick my big spazzy white ass. But, yeah, man, he's fantastic. That, what I noticed, what I was thinking of that, you saw this finish, right?
Yeah.
Reverse north-south. So he goes reverse north-south choke. So he S grips under his back,
right?
Goes reverse north-south. The guy ends up shucking his arm out, and then he finished with the standard north-south choke. I was thinking, if he would have just kept rotating all the way over, he would have almost forced the bottom guy to go belly on his belly, and then he's into the darce.
Right.
There's so much from right there, which is fantastic. I was like, man,
a darce king too.
I was like, dude, I need to get myself back in the gym. I'm pissed off, dude. I'm like, God, I'm sitting with my leg up in the air.
Yeah, no, that was dope. That's dope. And then
I don't know what's next for him. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, he signed with one, but it's like, I know one's got some good grapplers in it and whatnot, but they put him against Imanari. Imanari's a little, Imanari's a great competitor, but he's on the older side of things. So maybe that was just kind of a test to see where Marcello's at. And then
who's an older guy that we could give Marcello super fight? Galval.
I think Galval's too big.
Too big.
Because Marcello's what, like 160, 170 maybe?
Yeah. Damian Maia's too big.
That's still
Matt
active. Sarah. Yeah.
Matt Sarah. I'm trying to think of like old heads, you know what I mean? Like
there's not a ton of them still competing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Leo, maybe. Would be fun. That'd be fun. Leo Vieira versus Marcello Garcia.
Yeah.
I'd pay for that.
Wasn't Marcello just at HQ like a month or two ago?
I don't remember.
I think he was. I think he was because I remember Mark texting me a link saying, because he's doing a seminar and he's like, we should go to this.
Leo's wearing level black. I know that.
Yeah.
Leo wearing all level black kits. What's going on there? Usually checking that guys are showy rolled out. I don't know what's going on there, but Leo be sporting that level black. The American muscle car of the jiu-jitsu world.
We got Joey Cab Fink. He's got a 2-part question here. Technique or submission series that you either have no interest in or might not like, and something that you find interesting that you want to eventually explore and learn.
I have interest in everything, honestly. I would like to do flying submission. I'm just afraid I'm going to break somebody in half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean? I would like to, I wish I was more versed in the feet, in the legs. Yeah. To be honest with you, I wish I was. It's not that I don't want to learn them. It's, I got fear of learning them because I have such bad legs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like when you play the foot game, that also gives the foot game to your opponent. So why not just avoid it if you can? You know what I mean? Because I don't want to, I can't be, I get shelved too much. So it's more of a fear thing. What was the second part of that question?
Well, the first part is, what's something that you have a technique or submission series that you have no interest in, and then one that you have an interest in exploring more.
So I think it's both. I have no interest in learning the feet game, but I do have an interest in learning the feet game because I want to learn it, but I don't want to learn it because I'm kind of scared. So that's kind of
right.
And I do know basic, I know freaking a steamer lock, I know freaking straight ankle lock, and I know outside heel hook from like, a basic entry, but I'm not Xing X guard into stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I know Joey, shout out Joey. This is Takashi Jiu-Jitsu shit right here. He's very good at that kind of stuff. He likes to invert, get upside down, play Barata Platas and all this crazy subs, stuff that I don't do.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's what's so good about our 6 a.m. crew is
diverse skill set.
You got me who's just kind of like smash your soul, square peg in a circle hole. We'll get it in there. And then you got Jason, who's a very methodical, technical half guard, step-by-step details. And then you got Joey, who is into the new stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's like learning he's very good at legs, and he's good at inverting, and he's good at like hitting stuff like that. I've just like, oh wow, okay. So I think it gives everybody, all the students kind of get a good taste of everything. You know what I mean? So that's why I think it's so good about our 6 a.m. crew.
Right. When I first got into jiu-jitsu, it was so, I went to 10th Planet, and I've mentioned this before. It was so leg focused that I felt like I really was lacking fundamentals. And so when I went to Checkmat, and I learned very quickly from getting smashed that my fundamentals were lacking, I all but abandoned wanting to know anything about feet, and all I wanted to know was like pressure, top control, like just real meat and potatoes, like fundamentals jiu-jitsu, like standard arm bars, triangle chokes, which I suck at triangles to this day, but like that's what I wanted to know. And now that I've kind of creeping towards the back half of blue, and I feel like I've got good pressure at this point. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of fundamentals. And I don't just mean like understanding, I mean like from a muscle memory standpoint. You know what I mean? Like I'm not making the basic mistakes mid-roll of like reaching for something I shouldn't be reaching for, like, overextending my weight a certain direction when I shouldn't be. That is kind of drilled into me where it's just kind of muscle memory at this point. So now I feel a little more confident, and I'm starting to force myself to play single leg X, and even a little bit of regular X guard, which I never thought that I would play, just so that I can get a grab on some feet. Now, being at a newer school where a majority of the students are blue and white, and we have 2 purple belts that got their purples this weekend, and we have a brown belt, and then obviously our instructor who's a black belt. So now I feel like since we've got some higher level blues and now some purples, like maybe it's okay to start. And I've obviously had this conversation with Jason as well. It's okay to start playing some leg stuff with some of these guys, but letting them know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm not going to torque anything. I'm just going to go for the setup. You know what I mean? Like, just beware that I am going to be hunting for legs a little bit, so that you don't make the mistake of turning a direction you shouldn't, kind of a thing. So,
right.
I'm just now, I'd say like the last maybe like month to 2 months, just starting to kind of dip my toe in the water there, because I do feel like it's important to start trying to have a grasp of that knowledge at an late blue, early purple kind of a level. So instead of just waiting till brown, because you can't really use it in competition until then, to learn it, because then I feel like you're behind the curve at that point.
I think modern jiu-jitsu has proven that lower belts who are hyper-focused on feet is not the way to go, because you end up not developing the fundamentals of passing and takedowns and smashing and cooking.
Right.
you just diving, you're hunting for legs, you're technically not sound. Of course, there are high level guys in these schools that do all leg stuff, and they're phenomenal. But there's so many lower level guys that are just not developing properly. They're pulling the burrito out and it's still frozen in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's been proof when you have guys like Jason Nolf and all these elite, Downey, all these elite wrestlers who have been grappling their whole life. They know how to take down. They know how to smash. They know pressure. And now we're teaching them foot stuff.
Right.
That's fine. They're a more well-rounded grappler. When all you do is hunt feet, how are you really, and it is the fastest way to a sub right now in this landscape of jiu-jitsu. The foot attack is. But how are we developing your takedowns, your head submissions, your arm submissions? And I think that's and even PGF, they tried to change that. They give more points for the neck sub than you get for legs, for breaks. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like they want that, but like there's so many people just dropping to their ass in these schools at white and blue belts. And if you're a white and blue belt and you're just dropping to your ass and you're diving for feet the whole time, you will become a one-dimensional foot fighter, and that's fine if that's what you want to be, but you're not going to be well-rounded. You're basically going to be a golfer that's good at the driving range. I'm a long drive guy, but you don't have a short game. You don't have a medium game. You know what I mean? Like you got to be well-rounded grappler. And so that's why, even though it's fear for me, I want to start going for feet. And on to Joey's question, that's something that I need to do more. Because I'm just very basic. I'm basic. I'm basic white girl latte with my fucking leg locks.
Davis MD, what's a habit you picked up in BJJ that you carried out? We answered that earlier. Here we go. Tahoe Jet Adventures. Gym rivalries in a small town.
Win them. Win them. Win them. They're fucking real.
Yeah.
They're real. There's only so many. There's usually 2 or 3 schools, maybe 2, and you gotta draw your line in the sand. Don't jump over. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say we have a gym rivalry, but there's just our city's pretty big, but like gym rivalries is a real thing. Like. You fight those guys in competition, that one's serious.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
like, we're both doing a tournament. It's us for so-and-so from down the street. Right. We got to get this W.
I haven't been to a lot of schools in the area, but I've been to a decent amount. You know what I mean? Okay. I've been to a lot of schools in the area, but there's so many fucking jiu-jitsu schools in our area that I have not been to all of them. That being said, I think it's neat where, like, I would say, maybe through a little bit of my past, maybe through the connection with BMAC at this point, like you and I have a pretty good. Ooh. What's that?
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I would say you and I have a pretty good relationship with like Drew at 10th Planet. You know what I mean? Where like at any time, any day, any class, open mat, whatever, like you and I could comfortably go in there, know a couple of people, be totally welcomed, open armed. And I think that maybe the jiu-jitsu rivalry thing back in the day was like a big deal. You know what I mean? In the early, let's say 90s, early 2000s of jiu-jitsu. But I think now it's such an open community and people are there's so many different like paths to victory that, people are like, they kind of bounce around to get some looks. They have their home gym, obviously. And that's who they belt under. That's who their professor is. But it's neat to go get like a little different perspective on something. You know what I mean? Like, okay, when we went to that seminar with BMAC and he was showing us, his take on guillotine. Like I'd never really thought of the guillotine as like a spine compression thing. You know what I mean? Where I just always thought it was kind of like a carotid choke and you're just, once you get that under the head, under the neck, you're cranking on it, trying to break them. But the way that he broke it down technique wise, and it's just like, had we not stepped outside of our own gym home and gotten that look, my eyes wouldn't have been open to that. You know what I mean?
there's different players, you know what I mean, have different styles.
Yeah.
So just because you've been with your guy for 15, 16 years doesn't mean you can't learn something new from another guy. That's why these seminars are cool. That's the only cool thing about seminars is you're learning something from something you've never learned before.
Right.
The problem with being a higher belt is sometimes you're learning something you already know and you don't know what they're going to show before you sign up.
Right.
So it's a real problem sometimes.
Right.
But I mean, you're just there for the picture, I suppose.
And the opportunity to possibly roll with that person.
Yeah, for sure.
And then this is going to be our last one. This is from Tony Vu. This is a question for the pod. Am I an asshole in this situation? I'm a white belt rolling with another white belt, but I have 60 plus pounds on him, and I'm not going to overload aggressively, and I wanted to work on my escape, so I let him have mount. Then this little motherfucker decides that he wants to Ezekiel choke me. Cool, but he can't get his tiny little gremlin fist under my chin, so he grinds it into my cheek and cuts up the inside of my mouth. So I bench pressed him 4 feet into the air and got into top half guard, chest to chest, with a cross-face underhook, and I decided to drive my cross-face shoulder into his face for about 4 minutes without advancing my position, knowing that he wouldn't be able to get out. Os, LOL.
Guys forgot about that one, huh? No. Look at bro. Your ego got the best of you. Okay. You try to do a good thing, but I'm going to be bottom. I've been listening to Matt. He's like, hey, let's let the little guys work under 200. Let's let them work. And then all of a sudden he gets on top and he's trying to win. You don't like it. You should have tried to pass guard. You should have tried to pass guard and win the right way. But nothing wrong with a little shoulder pressure, bro. I mean, it is what it is. I don't think you did anything dirty. I just think you were just being big. You're being a mat bully, but whatever, man. It's good to have some of that. Sometimes you just got to sometimes you just got to squash these little guys when you get swept. But again, you need to pull guard on that guy every time you roll with him. And this time, don't let him put his little gremlin hands under your neck and try to Ezekiel choke you.
Fair.
I mean, that was a good one. I don't know. Little guys come, us big guys don't have necks, so it's not like, he was going to choke you anyways, probably, if you have 60 pounds on him, unless this guy's under 100 pounds.
Right. That's it, brother.
You think what I'm thinking?
Aim for the bushes, my man.
Aim for the bushes. My name is Matt at O's Nation BJJ. This is Kenny at Freak Party BJJ. Follow us on the Discord, YouTube, TikTok for a couple more days. Everywhere. YouTube, Spotify, we have video on there now, so you can watch our ugly faces if you want. We appreciate everything. This is a nice change of pace from episode 69. I felt like I needed to come back. I felt like we needed to rebound with some little more. Not like, hey, we're humans, okay? We're just trying. I don't think we're never have another, I guess, 169. 169 will be another wild one. Anyways, or 96.
There you go. The South North episode.
Anyways, appreciate everybody. Have a good week. This week, let's just try to finish somebody with pressure. Okay, let's get on heavy. And let's knee on belly and let's finish on top. Have a good one, guys. Oh.